I'm honored to speak today to Senator McCallum's motion, and I thank her for her tireless advocacy on behalf of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit across Canada. Today, I speak in full support of this important motion, which will certainly help move reconciliation forward in this country. In preparing to speak on this motion, I thought to myself, how can I ensure my speech has an impact? What can I do to help advance the voices of those who have suffered deeply and continue to do so at the hands of this country's government? And as I thought about this, the answer became clear in my mind. I wanted to bring a voice into this chamber that for so long had been ignored and even barred from speaking here. So today, I give my voice to a dear friend, respected elder, and residential school survivor, Garnet Angeconeb. Garnet Angeconeb is an Anishinaabe man who has survived a long journey. He grew up on his family's traditional territory until the age of 7, when he was forced by the Government of Canada to go to Pelican Indian Residential School. Garnet suffered many negative effects of government policies in the decades that followed. Despite those personal hardships, he became a journalist, a community leader, and a respected elder in both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal communities. Senators, it is now my honor to share Garnet's words with you. Senators, I am so honored to speak to you through Senator Yvonne Boyer inside this chamber of honor and privilege. I acknowledge the Algonquin Anishinaabe people whose traditional lands the Red Chamber is located. Today, I speak to you in the spirit of truth. The elders teach us to speak the truth, and so with this sacred teaching, I will speak firsthand about lived experiences of Indian residential schools. I presently live in Sioux Lookout in northwestern Ontario, and I am a proud member of the Lac Sioux First Nation. We live in the traditional territory of Treaty 3, an area which encompasses 55,000 square miles of land, an area surrounded with beautiful lakes and forests. Treaty 3 is a living document which is the foundation of our relationship with Canada. Not only that, but Treaty 3 binds the region together with the Anishinaabe people, politically, economically, and socially. Treaty 3 was signed in 1873. However, Lac Sioux First Nation signed onto the treaty with an adhesion in 1874. Our people continue to honor the treaty, a treaty that is viewed as a sacred covenant of coexistence. Upon signing the Treaty Number 3 adhesion in 1874 on behalf of the Lac Sioux Anishinaabe, Chief Saskatchewan so eloquently said, "If you give what I ask, the time may come when I will ask you to lend me one of your daughters and one of your sons to live with us. And in return, I will lend you one of my daughters and one of my sons for you to teach what is good, and after they have learned, to teach us. If you grant us what I ask, although I do not know you, I will shake hands with you." So upon signing this treaty, you can see that started a long relationship of coexistence, a relationship that still exists to this day and is recognized under the 1982 Constitution Act. However, from time to time, the relationship has hit bumpy spots and trying times along the way. Chief Saskatchewan's vision of coexistence to teach and learn from each other has not always been practiced nor honored. No matter the issue, we continue to walk together on the path of learning. Learning more about residential schools is no exception. As a survivor of the Indian residential school system, I continue to learn about it. There is so much to learn about the post-residential school era, the impacts, historic trauma, transgenerational anger, healing, reconciliation, and so much more. Let me try and explain what I mean so that we can all learn from each other. In March 2017, a senator speaking in the Red Chamber made less than distinguished comments about the good of Canada's Indian residential school system and the well-intentioned staff that worked within the schools. Her comments are contrary to the lived experiences of survivors and the findings of Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. As a survivor of the Indian residential school system myself, and to my family and community, the Senator's remarks, vile views, and her subsequent actions remain hurtful and deeply offensive. I also submit to you that her negative actions in tune go against the country's move towards true reconciliation. Many people, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, remain offended. After being released from the confines of the residential school system with a wounded spirit, I didn't want to listen to anyone, no one. The residential school system had made me too angry. I was bitter, very bitter. I was angry at myself. I was angry at my parents for allowing me to attend. But little did I realize it was the law of the state and the role of the churches that separated me from my family. Dare I say it, I was even angry at God, my Creator. Simply put, as a confused young man, I was mad at the world. However, on the positive side, and through my personal healing journey, I was able to cope, and I learned to control my anger. I found the strength to not let the anger control my life. Why am I telling you this, you might ask? You see, it was like this. When I first heard and learned about the comments embraced by this senator, I was puzzled. I felt the need to rise up to the challenge that we had, the collective. Still, a lot of work had to be done to educate each other about our shared history. However, as more comments and actions were spewed out, I could feel the remnants of the residential school system anger rearing its ugliness again. Try as we did, in July 2017, a number of residential school survivors met face-to-face with the senator to seek more understanding of the effects of the legacy. This meeting failed. Following this meeting, it became obvious that the meeting was a meeting of convenience for the senator, portraying a message that everything was well. Things actually got worse, which led to the senator's exclusion from her political party, not to mention her 2 suspensions from this chamber. Without malice, I found the senator's responses and actions to be condescending. She may have listened to our stories, but somehow it appeared she didn't hear our message. I ascertained that she was not engaged in a meaningful conversation of the healing of relations. And so, given this ongoing matter, I hope you can see why some old wounds can easily be reopened. This is why I speak about anger stemming from historic trauma, and the effects of historic trauma are sadly transgenerational. This anger, a lingering effect of the system, certainly resurfaced in this situation. Racism. Like opening the wounds inflicted by the residential school system, the veneer is so thin, and the embers of racism can easily be reignited. Clearly, the words, the actions of the senator reignited the flames of racism in this country. In the 1960s and 70s, as a young Anishinaabe man, growing up in northwestern Ontario, I lived through very turbulent times, dealing with overt racism, including the impacts of systemic racism. Those living in northern Ontario can understand the threat of raging forest fires. In the era I speak about, racism in the north was ablaze. Although some fires have subsided, embers still smolder away and racism easily ignitable. At least with raging forest fires, they can be extinguished with a lot of effort and firefighting equipment. But the raging fires of racism are not that easily extinguished. In this country, racism is on the rise. Northwestern Ontario is not free of racism. We still need collective effort and proper tools to fight racism. A move toward healing and reconciliation. Senators, it is my belief that the healing of relationships is in order. Healing efforts through dialogue will lead all of us to meaningful reconciliation. But in saying this, healing must happen first before reconciliation efforts take shape. In conclusion, let us move forward in the spirit of reconciliation. Let us talk to each other in a good way. Let us talk in a responsible way until every ounce of pain caused by the Indian residential school system has dissipated. My friends, the time is here. The time is now to listen to the wisdom of leaders past, for their guidance lives in each one of us today. Let us be guided by the spirit of leaders like Chief Saskatchewan. And so what is this all about? This is about our children and our grandchildren and those yet to be born. Whenever I look into the eyes of my beautiful children, I cannot help but tell them this is for you and the future of our country. I have spoken the truth. Through truth, we will understand. Through understanding, there is hope. Through hope, there is healing. Through healing, there is reconciliation. Through reconciliation, there is forgiveness. Through forgiveness, there is peace. Miigwech for listening. Thank you, Garnet, my dear friend, for your powerful words, and thank you, colleagues, for listening with an open heart.